Hi, welcome to Southeast Uplift's October 2020 new board member training. So this training is for new neighborhood association board members that might be new to the neighborhood system, but it's also for anybody who's part of a board. We're going to go over bylaws and how to create inclusive meetings and use effective communication as a board member, and how to have fun, of course. And then we're also going to talk a little bit about the Southeast Uplift, the resources that we provide, organizations, groups, and our neighborhood associations, and other services that we provide, funding that we offer, and just some tips and tricks on how to be an effective board member and run effective meetings. So welcome and hope you enjoy.
To do breakout room assignments, but I think if I do that, it's just going to launch and we're not ready for that yet. So right before we do the quiz bowl, I'll do the breakout room assignments, and we'll take a little break while I do that. Then right now we're going to jump into the overview of the neighborhood system. We're going to talk about who is Southeast Uplift and how we can help you. And then we're going to do a little quiz bowl. An exciting thing about the quiz bowl is that the winner, I'm going to share, so this is how it's going to work. You're going to be assigned to a breakout room with your team members. If you signed up with your neighborhood, all of you might be from the same neighborhood. And if not, you might be with some of your neighbors from other neighborhoods. And I'm going to send you all a Google form through the chat. You're going to fill it out. It's going to tell you what you get wrong, what you get right, and the winner, whoever gets the most points, is going to win a $50 Fred Meyer gift card. I'm holding for applause, but I guess no one's excited about that. Yay! Okay, you're going to get a $50 gift card, and then it's a really fun way to get to cover more information than we have in the slides. So it's a really good time. So if we can get through the presentation in time, we'll go through the quiz bowl, come back, and then I'll go over the answers with everybody. Does that sound good? Awesome. Okay, let's get started. So now that you've been elected to your neighborhood association, congratulations, you are now part of Portland's public involvement system. Portland's public involvement system is super old. I believe it's 60 years old, right, Leah? Started in 1968, yes. Is that 60 years?
Yeah, 68 is when it started.
Okay. Awesome. It's 68 years old. It is constantly evolving, but we are here for you and we're here to support you. So this is the map of Portland. So Portland is divided up into 7 neighborhood coalition areas. We are in Southeast. There is Northwest, Southwest, North Portland, Northeast Portland, Central, Northeast Portland, and East Portland. Each of these kind of neighborhood clusters is divided into neighborhoods, and we all have a neighborhood coalition. You are in Southeast, you might be in Buckman, Crescent Kenilworth, Richmond, etc., and your neighborhood coalition is Southeast Uplift. And what do we do in the neighborhood involvement system? We speak up. That's what we're here for. We're a coalition of neighbors and community organizations and individuals, and we're here to speak up about issues that matter to us in our neighborhoods. We're here to connect with others, build murals, make our neighborhoods beautiful. Everybody is welcome in the Southeast Portland neighborhood, as well as at Southeast Uplift and in all your neighborhood associations. We do things like cleanups and community building workshops, and we help people discover their neighborhoods and create, and most importantly, create your neighborhoods. Portland's neighborhood structure is divided into 3 sections. So there is our governing body over at the city, which is the Office of Community and Civic Life. It is comprised of the Office of Community and Civic Life office, our commissioner, which is Commissioner Chloe U. Daly right now, and city council, which includes the mayor and all the other commissioners. Then that governing body gives us funding to the district coalition offices. We receive a grant every year around $500,000 to operate, and we are the district coalition offices. Yeah, and that is comprised of our board, which is the Southeast Uplift Board, which some of you are a part of if you're a Southeast Uplift rep for your neighborhood association. It is also comprised of our coalition office committees, which is part of the board. We have a houselessness committee. We had a 50-year anniversary planning committee. Most recently, we had an executive search committee. We have committees for everything. That is how the board gets stuff done. Leah?
Committee.
And a land use committee, which is headed by Leah Fisher. And of course, there's the staff, which we'll get into. You'll see our beautiful faces in the presentation in a little bit. But that's the District Coalition Office. And so like I said, the Office of Community and Civic Life gives us funding. And then what we do with that, we do programming and we support neighborhood groups, community organizations, and individuals. So you are the people that we serve. All of our funding, all of our time goes to you and community organizations, as well as individual support. And our constituents include neighborhood association boards, your association committees, and members and individuals. Excuse me. Any questions so far? All right.
I actually had a quick question.
Go ahead.
Do neighborhood associations get funding from y'all through the city to operate, or how does that work? I had heard that neighborhood associations get some sort of funding from the Office of Community and Civic Life.
Yeah, so you do get funding from Southeast Uplift via the city to operate. We have a series of grant programs and funds available to you all. Some of that is the communications grants. The neighborhood associations receive communications grants every year for you to do your newsletters, build your websites, and connect with your neighbors via social media or Zoom or whatever it may be. We also have small grant funding, which is available to everyone. All of our grants is not only available to neighborhood associations, but to also all community organizations that want to take part in civic engagement. So that's through our small grants program, which is available every year. It's around $20,000. No, it's higher than that, maybe around $30,000. What else? Leah, am I forgetting? I mean, there's a ton of grant. We also support your Department of Justice registration every year. We cover that for you. There was the cleanup program, which has since been debunked, but Southeast Uplift is working out some form of way to keep that going and to give funding for you all to continue to do your cleanup programs. Leah, am I forgetting anything?
Oh, no, I think you covered it. Yeah, there's small grants. But I mean, I will say we're charged as we have to follow our grant agreement that we're getting from Office of Community and Civic Life. And our mission states that we're serving everyone in our coalition area. And so we've been adjusting our programming over the last 5 years to be more equal, ideally equitable, but we're not there yet. But yeah, making sure that everybody has access to our funding. So not just neighborhood associations, although we're really set up to like serve neighborhood associations just in like doing this orientation, for example. We don't do that for other community organizations. So the funding, we've been making it more available to others, and we're going to continue to do that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Of course. Okay. Okay, so let's talk about the Office of Community and Civic Life. So the Office of Community and Civic Life is our funder. They provide us our grant agreement every year, and they fund us directly. 99, maybe not 99, maybe 95% of our funding comes from the Office of Community and Civic Life. And they do a whole host of things beyond just the district coalitions. But for us, what they do is they coordinate the city-wide community involvement system, which is the system that we're all talking about, what we're involved in. They administer our grant funding for the coalitions, as well as other programs like graffiti abatement, liquor and licensing. They also run the city's cannabis program. They cultivate community building and partnerships. So a lot of our trainings, like our implicit bias trainings and our nonviolent communication trainings, are sponsored by the Office of Community and Civic Life. A lot of our, what do you call them? The dialogues, the civic dialogues with the Portland United Against Hate group is sponsored by the Office of Community and Civic Life. And they also provide trainings in leadership and community organizing skills, which is more of those trainings that I was just talking about. We haven't had too many trainings this year because of the pandemic, but once things start back up again, if you keep a lookout on the Southeast Uplift newsletter, we often advertise, as well as our Facebook page, we often advertise a lot of these community building, partnership building events, as well as all the civic dialogues, which have extremely interesting topics ranging from anti-racism to, I don't know, housing discrimination, redlining, a whole host of topics. So make sure you are subscribed to our newsletter and make sure that you follow us on Facebook, just so you are always up to date with everything that's going on at Southeast Uplift.
And we try to tailor our trainings or host trainings in response to what we're hearing from all of our neighbors and orgs that we're working with around topics that they're super interested in. So we, housing affordability is super, as you all answered in the survey, is like a really important topic for people. So last year with our land use committee, we hosted a four-part training on the history of housing, current policies, policies and process to address housing affordability. So that's just one example of something that we might do in response to what we're hearing.
Thank you. Any questions about that, you guys? Okay. And this is more of what I was saying earlier. The Office of Community and Civic Life does more than the Portland City Involvement System. They do information referral, administration and communications. Quick note, it says right here that they sponsor the Crime Prevention Office, but that program is no longer called Crime Prevention. It is called Community Safety. We just couldn't find a current graphic that says that, but just so everybody knows, it's no longer crime prevention, it's community safety. And the Office of Community and Civic Life has a database which lists everybody in the neighborhood association. So if you have a land use chair and who your chair is and your secretary and your treasurer, that will be there. It is not up to date right now, but we are working on it. Please bear with us. We are extremely short-staffed right now, so just bear with us. Yeah, and that is the Office of Community and Civic Life. Leah, do you think I'm missing anything? I believe this is the last slide on the...
No, that's good. I mean, I think it's helpful if you're not familiar with the community safety program. They have a bunch of program staff that will work with neighbors and neighborhood associations and orgs to talk more about safety topics like emergency preparedness. And oh my gosh, there's a huge list and I just looked at it today. How to like nonviolent conversations instead of calling the police, like how you can de-escalate. Gosh, they have a whole list of trainings that they will do virtually right now, but will also come and support neighbors if you have an issue around safety. So the name has changed and they're rethinking obviously their practices, as we all are rethinking systems and institutions right now. But they still are out there trying to help people promote safety and what it means to all of you. So if you're interested, definitely I recommend checking out their website and seeing what they have to offer.
Yeah, and just a little plug, just to really push you guys to subscribe to the newsletter. We recently hosted a whole safety series, I believe in the month of June, with community safety, about a whole series of things. What does safety mean to everybody? I believe we did neighbor to neighbor safety, like the web of safety, like who do you contact if there's a car in your neighborhood? Who do you contact if I don't know, for any reason that you might imagine. They are available and we work with them often. So keep a lookout on our newsletter and our Facebook page if any of these opportunities rise up. We do this for you, so we would love for you guys to attend. Okay. Let's talk about the Oni Standards. I'm curious, raise your hand if you've heard about the Oni Standards since you've been elected to your board. Oh, okay. I really thought that everybody would have raised their hands. So the Oni Standards are infamous. I don't even know what they stand for anymore since the office has changed. ONI was an acronym for what the Office of Community and Civic Life currently is. There was a name change. Leah, do you know what the...
Office of Neighborhood Involvement.
Okay.
So it was,
yeah, so it was the Office of Neighborhood Involvement Standards. They are still available online. If you Google the ONI Standards Portland, it is the first link. It's a PDF document. It was created as a framework for participation, and it clarifies your roles and responsibilities in the neighborhood involvement system. It was passed to ensure accountability, transparency, and accessibility to all services and at meetings. It was created to really be an inclusive document. Like I said, it is available online. If you want to read through it, absolutely do. However, Southeast Uplift, like, we don't read the ONI standards, and I don't know, it's just not part of our everyday work because it currently conflicts with our current grant agreement. It is still helpful in a lot of ways. Like I said, it's a great piece of history. It creates a framework for your participation. And if you have questions about what the heck am I doing here, it's a great read. However, it does conflict with our grant agreement right now. So we're trying to...
It just hasn't been updated is like a better way of framing it. It's kind of this document that's sitting, like a lot of things have changed and been updated, and these documents haven't been updated to reflect changes. I mean, not just names, but also just what our grant agreement is having us do. So it is still like Christina said, it still has good guiding information for you as you're in your role. But don't get too caught up in the weeds of like, wait, it says this here, and
Mm-hmm.
so I don't know. And then there's a question. I thought I saw someone raising their hand. Oh, Heather. Yes, Heather.
I was just curious to know more about what was the conflict about it. So are you feeling like it doesn't apply anymore because there are some changes to the 3.96 code proposed, or?
Well, there's just some inconsistencies in what's in the ONI standards and what we're being charged to do in our grant agreement, like reaching out and diversifying who we're sharing our resources with. Let's see, a lot of I can't think of an example off the top of my head, but there's been multiple times that we've found conflicting information, but it's not, I mean, unless you're really in the weeds about it, I would say if you're a new board member and curious about what your role is and like best practices around transparency and operating a meeting, it still has a lot of value.
So is it no longer our guiding document in terms of our policy?
We haven't been given solid direction from Civic Life about this document and like what to do about some of the conflicts that have come up. We haven't been given good guidance. So that would
be great to hear back on, because I thought that was still like the policy framework that sort of was the overriding one, even though there
it hasn't been like axed, obviously it's still, but it hasn't been like updated so that it's consistent with what our grant says, which is what is our primary guiding document, I guess you could say.
Okay.
So obviously,
I think as someone that works in the involvement system, it is way more helpful to read Southeast Uplift's grant agreement that we receive every year when our funding renews, that more so details like what we're reporting on and what our outcomes should be. So I think if you are interested in, the history of it all, I would definitely recommend reading the ONI standards. But if you want to know more about like the work that we're doing currently and the work that we're pushing forward, I would recommend reading the Southeast Uplift Grant Agreement, which is also available on our website.
Where would we find that?
It's on our website.
Is there a particular place we should look for that?
If you search on the Southeast Uplift website, Southeast Uplift Grant Agreement, it should pop up. The most recent one is not available, but I believe the one from 2018 is available.
And it hasn't changed much.
Yeah, it hasn't changed very much. Also, if you are curious about the work that Southeast Uplift has been doing, all of our grant reports that we submit to the city every 6 months is also available on our website. Any other questions?
Oh, there is a.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so let's talk about Southeast Uplift and the Neighborhood Coalition offices. This is our mission. Southeast Uplift's mission is to collaborate with the Southeast Portland community to build informed, inclusive, and participatory neighborhoods that support our social and ecological well-being. There was a committee to come up with this, so another thing that committees do. So our main tasks, the thing that drives us, the things that we do is we are an information and resource provision and technical support provider. So we are here to provide information for you. We provide resources in terms of grants and connections. We are super connected within the Southeast Portland community. That's what our staff is really strong in. And we also provide technical support. So if you had trouble with Zoom, if you had, I don't know, to reach someone at the city, if you wanted to organize a cleanup, if you wanted to organize a national night out, we are here for you to do that. We're a community project incubation center. PUA, the Portland United Against Hate organization, started at Southeast Uplift among many others in our 50-year history. That is what we do. We are a community capacity building hub. So we provide funding and resources for people to create and build community projects that turn into nonprofit organizations and who knows what, just big movements. That's what we're here for. We provide educational and community events. So like we are hosting, this is the first event of our Leadership Academy. So throughout the month of October, we're providing a whole leadership series around facilitation, not diversifying your board, implicit bias, and advocacy, and a whole bunch of other things. And you can find all of that information on our website as well. And we also provide opportunities for neighborhood associations to share and collaborate. So yeah, we are connected with not only neighborhood associations, but with other community organizations. So if you want to collaborate with other people and other groups, we are here to help you with that. Anything else, Leah, do you want to add? So this is us. We are located in the heart of Sunnyside. We are right on Main Street. We work to create healthy communities, and we empower our neighbors to create the change that you want to see. This is our beautiful staff. This is our gorgeous building, and this is your neighborhood. This is us and everything that we do. Our executive director is Leroy Eady. His main task is to work with the board and to guide us in our strategic plan and to make sure that we're fulfilling our grant agreement throughout the year. Our neighborhood planning program manager is Leah Fisher. Leah is the neighborhood planning program manager, so she runs the neighborhood planning section of our work, which includes our neighborhood association and liaison program, as well as our land use committee program, land use and transportation committee. Anything else, Leah, since you're here, I think?
No, I think you covered it. Yeah, anything like land use and transportation related, whether it's notices that you're receiving, new development that's happening, or plans that are in process, that's kind of my department. And if you or your neighborhood association or other groups that you're working with have any interest in doing advocacy around certain topics, I can kind of help you get started. I can't do the work for you because I don't have the capacity to do that, but I can definitely help you kind of figure out how to take the next steps and what those next steps should be. And I'll throw another plug for the Advocacy 101 training that's happening next week, the 30th. And so if you do have an advocacy issue that you're interested in, we're going to be talking about how to kind of like what's next, what are the next steps you need to take, how to get started. And we'll have some opportunity for workshopping. If you do have an issue and you really want to get started, we'll have some time to brainstorm around those issues. So thanks, Christina.
Of course. Our communications and community engagement manager is Maria Medina, who sadly is leaving at the end of the month, but we will be welcoming a new team member as soon as we can. And then there's me. I am the grants and fiscal sponsorship manager now because I don't know if you all remember Moose, probably some of you don't, but Moose was our grants manager and he also left. COVID has just taken everything from us. I'm sure you can relate. And one of those things was Moose. So I have been stepping in to manage some of the grants and the fiscal sponsorship, as well as my additional requirements of operations. So we are also hiring an operations coordinator, which is coming up very soon. We just need some extra help around the office, obviously, because we are short-staffed. So we're hiring a part-time operations coordinator to help us out. Oh, I thought there was a slide in between this, but just a quick word about staff. Like I said, we are a little bit understaffed right now, but hopefully that will no longer be the case in a month or a month and a half. So please bear with us. If you reach out to us and we don't get back right away, don't think it's because we're ignoring you or anything. It's just there's a lot going on and we're trying to stay on top of everything. If you go on our website, I keep talking about our website, but there's a lot of good information there. If you go on our website, we have the best ways to contact us. All of our staff have different communication styles. So if you are having trouble reaching one of us, maybe you might want to try texting us. For me, I prefer phone calls at my office and emails. I'm always on my email, so that's the easiest way to reach me. And for Leah, it's different. And for Maria, it's different. So please check our website to see when we're in the office and how you can best reach us. Any questions about staffing and like what we do? I know that was something people wanted to know more about. Okay. So let's get into it. What we do. So Southeast Uplift has a whole host of programming to support community capacity building, essentially. So like I said, we provide funding. We have 2 grant programs, our small grants programs and our communications grants. Our communications grants open in October and our small grants open in November. And those are available to everyone. So please keep an eye on our website for all of those opportunities coming up. The applications are pretty straightforward. You just fill them out and submit them and start the grant process. We have our land use and transportation program, which is run by Leah. They meet monthly and they talk about land use issues, important things happening around the city, and really get people involved in land use decisions being made. Leah, how often does the land use committee meet?
We meet monthly, and then I share out updates. Thanks, Heather, for that one. And yeah, if you have topic ideas for the committee, you don't have to be a land use rep to attend. I try to populate the agenda with just timely policy decisions that are being made so that people have the information so that they can weigh in to city decision makers. But like I said, I can support you if you have questions about like how can I get speeds reduced on my street, or what can be done with property. I mean, just anything. I feel like land use and transportation is just such a big topic that it's kind of hard to do an elevator speech about it, but most things tend to connect back. And even if I can't, I could just let you know, nope, that's not my scope. I can direct you to someone else or another organization. So definitely defer to asking, and I can redirect if I need to.
Yeah. Another thing we provide help with is administrative compliance. So part of our liaison services is coming to your elections and supporting you in that. We also help, like I said, reimburse you for your DOJ filing fees and all of that stuff. We collect some of your communications chairs probably know this, but they all send me, or your secretaries, they all send me your meeting minutes and agendas, and we archive those. And yeah, we provide administrative compliance stuff to make sure that all of our bases are covered. We are an information exchange hub. So like I said, our newsletter and our Facebook are real-time information sharing, portals. We provide skill building. So we do a bunch of workshops. We probably do maybe 20 or 30 workshops a year, workshops and trainings. So like I said, keep an eye on our newsletter for when those are coming up. And if you have ideas for what you want to see, if you want to learn something, we have the connections and we have the funding to make those things happen. So let us know. Maybe there's something we haven't thought about that we can do a whole series on. And we help with project and idea development. So if you have an idea, if you have a project that you want to work on, you can contact us, apply for a grant, reach out to us. We can be your outreach team, and we can be a good way to like bounce ideas off of, etc. So that's what we do. Check out our website, please. I work so hard on it. Please use it. Thank you very much. This is the slide that I was looking for. This is just an update on Southeast Uplift in COVID times. Nothing much has changed. We're still operating 40 hours a week as a staff. We are back in the office now. We are open from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Thursday. We're available for mail pickup, technical support, and general questions by appointment. So if you want to come pick up your mail or do anything, please email us ahead of time and set up an appointment so that we can be prepared and have our masks on and everything. We are requiring everybody to wear masks, so please do so if you come visit us. And obviously this is a changing situation, and our website is the best way, our website and our Facebook page is the best way to find like real-time updates on what we're doing and what we're up to. Yeah, and this is the thing that I was talking about. This is when we went through and talked about and told Maria the best ways that we like to be contacted. This is available on our website. Okay, any questions so far? Okay, I'm doing a great job then, if there are no questions. All right, let's talk about what you all do. The stars of the show, neighborhood associations and community organizations. Okay, what do? You do advocacy. You do gatherings and events. Probably not so much these days, but we're learning, in a COVID world, we're adapting. What else? You work on livability issues. You work on communication and your identity as a neighborhood. I wanted to make an important point here, and Leah, maybe we can, tag team this. We want to highlight that neighborhood associations specifically are participatory organizations. So I know it can feel sometimes like we are so enmeshed in our neighborhood. Like we meet, like Richmond, for example, you guys meet at Waverly Church like every month, and it can feel like you represent your neighborhood. But I do want to highlight that, neighborhood associations are one way that people get involved in their neighborhoods. Some people are involved in the Latino network. Maybe they feel like they more identify with the Latino network than, I don't know, maybe Mount Scar Arletta's neighborhood association. So while, neighborhood associations do a lot of amazing work, you mostly represent people that come to your meetings and people that really participate in neighborhood associations rather than the whole neighborhood as a whole. Does that make sense to everybody? I just wanted to make that distinction because I know it can sometimes, feel like a huge charge to represent everybody in your neighborhood when you don't have to. You just have to reach the people that want to work with you guys, and that's all you can do,
Can I say something,
Yeah.
Christina?
Sure.
Sure.
I think it's so important that you mentioned that. And one of the things that we do at the beginning of our meetings is we actually say that same thing, is we have that, kind of part of our introduction, because I think we want to remind people that it really is so participatory, and we do the best to represent, whoever participates, we can, and who speaks up and who comes. And so we encourage everybody to come and join our listservs and be involved. But, we can only represent the voices that we hear.
Thank you, Heather. Yeah, that's such a good point. And I mean, that doesn't mean that neighborhood associations can't strive for increasing the number of
Absolutely.
people who participate, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And also strive to meet the needs of all of your neighbors. So you may have folks that aren't attending, single moms who are struggling to do homeschooling and work. Like, it doesn't mean you can't try to do activities or advocate on their behalf or try to support people who may not have the capacity to attend. But if you're writing a letter to city council about a land use issue or policy issue, you're only representing the folks that are part of that decision, right? And so thank you, Heather. Yeah, that's a great example. And I think it's important to remember that. And similarly, Southeast Uplift only represents the folks that are in the neighborhoods that are in the organizations and individuals that are engaging in our coalition. And we're constantly struggling to diversify who we're serving, diversify the voices that we're representing, diversify the voices that we're lifting up. So we're going to be having another little skill building training at the end of October around diversifying your board. And so
that's great to hear.
That's a struggle. And similarly, Latino Network doesn't represent every Latinx person in the city of Portland, right? It's only the folks that are engaging with that group. So I think it's something that we all struggle to increase, or we all strive, I guess I should say, to increase the number of people participating. So.
Sorry, I muted myself. Okay, so what are your duties as board members? So first, you have the duty to encourage openness and transparency. As board members and as people receiving this training, you better go back to your board and be like, I'm here to encourage openness and transparency. You have fiduciary duties. You have the duty to be engaged and get serious about participating in your neighborhood and contributing to your neighborhood association. A lot of the times I only get emails from one person from the neighborhood association, and I'm hoping that this changes this year. Hopefully everybody is involved and everybody's engaged in their neighborhood associations. We have a duty to understand that we're all better together. You have a duty to have fun. It can get easy to get caught up in the weeds and get really involved in process, but this is a time to connect with your community members and enjoy each other's company and enjoy making your neighborhood a fun place to live. You have a duty to make room for people. So like we were just talking about, while we are only participatory organizations, we still have a duty to strive to make room for other people. And make sure, this is another plug for our facilitation training, how you can make your meetings more inclusive and more open and more welcoming to people that aren't used to the neighborhood involvement system or have never been part of the neighborhood association system. So make sure you come to that. You have a duty to set the tone for good behavior. You have a duty to call out bad behavior when you see it around your neighborhood and even in your neighborhood association. You know, you are a leader in your community, so you have some duties. So let's get into the real duties actually. You have a duty of due care. So like I said, you have a duty to take care of your neighborhood and take care of your people, each other. You have a duty of loyalty. So that means, what does that mean? It means you can't, I don't know, you can't I don't know, join your neighborhood association for I don't know, special interests or something like that. Leah, help me out here. I'm blanking.
Yeah, you said it. I mean, you
Oh,
can't
okay.
for your own personal interest or personal
gain.
I mean, I don't know any others want to explain, like, I don't know, longer standing board. Thank you, Heather. Yes, see, it's interactive.
And I don't want to talk too much. Other people feel free to weigh in. I just, we've had some things that, we've had to figure out. And like you, for example, you can't bash your neighborhood association in the media.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it's your responsibility, as a sort of the ethics, I think, are really important, that you are, there's a code of ethics that you're supposed to be, respectful of your neighborhood board and the members of that board, and not to be denigrating people in the media, things like that.
Yeah, thank you. And you have a duty of obedience. So that means following your bylaws, coming to your meetings, submitting your minutes, etc. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that that's all.
And just to kind of like clarify, so because neighborhood associations are state nonprofits, you're not 501c3 status, so you're not getting like the tax exemption for donations and things like that, but you are still state nonprofits. So that's what these duties come from. So
Right.
if you're part of any other state nonprofit or small nonprofit, you would similarly have these obligations. So it's kind of a part of the state law. It's not something that Southeast Uplift imposes on neighborhood associations. It's part of state law.
Right, which reminds me, if you come to Southeast Uplift, we have a bunch of red booklets from the Department of Justice, which details all of these things a little bit further, and they're for any nonprofit board to follow, and it details what all of this means. So if you're interested in that, and I'm sure it's online as well, if you're interested in it, it's a little booklet. It's the DOJ duties of nonprofit board service, and you can Google that.
It's a real page turner.
It is exciting stuff. Neighborhood association. So let's talk about your bylaws. So the bylaws are your governing document. All of you have one. It might not be used. From my experience, every neighborhood association is different. Some people follow their bylaws to the T, and some people don't even know, can't even find it in their files. So it's really up to you and how you want to use it. As long as your group agrees on how you're conducting your business, whether it is with the bylaws or not, then that's totally fine. It is no big deal to us.
You should be following your bylaws. If you feel like your bylaws need to be updated, because a lot of them are older, then you as a group, as a board, can decide you want to update your bylaws. And we have resources we can share about what are best practices around what should be included in your bylaws. I think some neighborhood associations will run into issues when their bylaws are super specific. Like, for example, for your elections, it might say, we will advertise our election in this news outlet and that news outlet at this time. And it's like, well, you probably shouldn't be so specific as to what news outlet you're going to use, because what if that doesn't exist anymore? Then technically you're violating your bylaws. But we might recommend you say, we will advertise our election in a print source and an online source, or something a little more general and allows for more flexibility, because bylaws are really kind of that larger document. And then if you really want to get more into the weeds and be more specific, you can adopt other documents like guiding principles or best practices or other kind of more detailed documents that don't take as much effort and time to change, because bylaws do require quite a process. It can be upwards of 3 months with notification to change those. So, but that said, there are a handful of neighborhood association boards that don't review their bylaws, and that's again one of those things. Like, we can't like force people to do things, but we highly encourage, and you're supposed to.
Yeah. I was thinking more in terms of elections. I know some people's bylaws are very specific, like you just said, with elections. And I know some things happen, like a pandemic happened and you have to veer off your bylaws. And sometimes you don't have time to go through the whole process of changing your bylaws. So it's all about quorum and agreeing on how you're going to proceed in certain amounts of time. Like, I'm trying to say they're not binding, and if you don't follow them, actually, I was going to say if you don't follow them, nothing bad will happen, but that's not true. If you don't follow your bylaws, you are subjecting yourself to a grievance. That is something that you have to live with. If you don't review your bylaws or aren't up to date on them or don't know what's going on with them, that is the danger of not following them.
And they do also, they also list, like another example, Christina, of something boards might want to revisit. Sometimes they can be, they state who your members can be. So it's geographically based for the most part, but I would say in the last few years that I've been at Southeast Uplift, membership questions have come up around like, well, can houseless people be members of our neighborhood association? Because we know that they're neighbors. And so some people have adjusted their bylaws so that it's not so specific to owning a home or like having a residence that has an address. And then other things that have come up is, you know, folks that North Tabor, for some reason, they've had a handful of people show up that aren't actually in their neighborhood, but they're right on the border. So sometimes, you know, people living in community don't always identify as like, I'm in this geographic line, so therefore I'm part of this, but they feel like, oh, you know, I'm part of a broader neighborhood or Mount Tabor neighborhood, when really they're technically in North Tabor or vice versa. So some neighborhood association bylaws say that they'll allow people outside of the geographic area if there's like a compelling reason or they're vested in the neighborhood for some reason, like they go to church there or something. So those are kind of the questions that I've seen come up around bylaw changes and being more inclusive if you have folks that are interested.
Thank you. And yeah, I was going to say the bylaws, if you don't know where they are, please find them, because they do give you so much information on what's going on with your neighborhood association. Like Leah said, like member eligibility, what is the process of grievances? Let's say you get hit with a grievance and you were just nominated to being the chair. That is the place where you'll find like, how do you move forward? Terms of duty, so how long can a chair be a chair, and duties of board members. So what does the treasurer even do? I mean, Southeast Uplift has resources for that on our website, but also your bylaws has resources for that as well. And it tells you like when your meeting should be and the guidelines for the meetings. Like if you don't know Robert's rules, I've seen some bylaws has that detailed in there. So it is a very helpful document, but also like it is a living document. So make sure that you are updating it and going through it and making sure that it stays with the times, etc. Yeah, so like we were just saying, it details your board election process. It details your board election process, member eligibility, what is a conflict of interest and what isn't, etc. Okay, so how does Southeast Uplift help you specifically? So we went through all of our programs. Now we're going to talk about how we can help neighborhood association board members specifically. This is just, yeah, we do communication and identity. So if you want to focus on communication and identity this year, these are some things you can take part in. Our communications funds, fiscal sponsorship. We have templates for communications like pamphlets and posters and stuff like that. We have design support, not anymore because Maria's leaving, but we will hire someone as soon as possible. And we have grant funds available as soon as November 2020. We also help with advocacy. If you want to focus on advocacy this year, you can go through the land use technical assistance, which Leah provides and is a genius at. The Southeast Uplift board, if you wanted to, I don't know if everybody knows who their SUL rep is, but if you haven't chosen a SUL rep yet in your neighborhood association, please do so that we can help you with your advocacy efforts. We can write letters of support. You can form the committee around something that you're really interested in, etc. We can connect you with resources around the city as far as we know, or we can point you in the right direction, and we can help you with rules and procedures. So we do have contact with the Office of Community and Civic Life, which might have contact with the mayor's office, etc. So we can help you navigate some systems. Livability, if you want to focus on livability stuff this year, take advantage of our grant funds. Fiscal sponsorship. If you don't know what fiscal sponsorship is, it's basically where Southeast Uplift, as an independent 501c3, we can lend our 501c3 status out to different groups to enable fundraising, which is really important for advocacy and creating movements. You need funds and you need to be able to fundraise and not be taxed as an independent entity. So that's what fiscal sponsorship is. What else? Project development consultation. So like I said, we're a great sounding board. I think we're super smart people. So if you have an idea and you want to get it off the ground, please don't hesitate to reach out to us, and please be patient with us. And we can connect you with resources. Gatherings and events. So like I said, if you want to throw a big party, I can't imagine why. If you want to throw a socially distant party, you can access our grant funds. You can fiscally sponsor your project. Good ideas to bounce off of. We can give you more ideas. Cleanup support. Like I said before, I'm just going to repeat it again. The cleanup program, we are no longer getting funding from BPS for that program, but we are still workshopping some ideas around how we can still support you all in your cleanup efforts. And what is that? Organizational support. Yeah, our liaison services. So each neighborhood association has a Southeast Uplift liaison where you send your reimbursement request to, where you can ask questions, have them attend your meetings. If you get a grievance or something, like, we're a nice third party that can come in and facilitate different issues between people, things like that. Am I missing anything, Leah? Do you want to jump in and clarify anything?
No, I think the most important takeaway is, if you have a question, just ask us and we'll point you in the right direction or try to help you find a solution. I would say we tend to get less questions from neighborhood association volunteers than more. There's some exceptions, but we're here to help. And if you have questions, let us know. We do send out a lot of information and then it doesn't get read, and then we get peppered with questions about certain things, like, okay, well, it's in the communication packet that we sent you outlining how the funds work. So just please, we try not to over communicate and over send out information, but please, if we are sending something, especially if you're an officer like a treasurer or a chair, please look through that information. And then if you also, like Christina said, we're working on continuing to update our website, and Christina's put in a ton of work to revamp it and update it. I've been working on my land use pages to make them more helpful for new land use reps. And then there's also just like a host of information from just decades of resources being provided. So you can always do a search. Just keep in mind, if you're searching on our website, it is a vast hole of just a lot of information that may not necessarily be 100% current, but I would still say that the like a lot of the toolkits and the workshop information it still has really good nuggets of information. It may not have the right contact person anymore, so just always go to our staff page to know who to contact, and you can always contact your liaison. So there's a lot of good information on the website too, and we'll point you in that direction as well. And then lastly, I will say, because we are a very limited staff and we are serving 260,000 people in our coalition area, is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Working to reach out and build partnerships in places that we haven't had that history that we've had with neighborhood associations. So we do have to really be strategic about how we use our time. So I would say definitely reach out, and we'll let you know if we can support or if we don't have the capacity to do that. We're really trying to use our time knowing that it's our primary resource in an equitable way. So if we've spent a ton of time with one neighborhood association, then we may not be able to spend a ton of time continuing to spend a ton of time with them. We may be reaching out and trying to support other organizations, groups, or neighborhood associations that we haven't spent as much time on. So we really try to operate and use our time in an equitable way as much as we're able to. And I would say we're not even doing as good of a job as I would like us to do, especially with the land use work, because a lot of times it takes a lot of time to build a relationship, and you get distracted responding to people and you don't get a chance to like reach out and build those relationships. So that's kind of a caveat on that, but still, please just reach out and ask and we'll let you know.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so the most recent development at Southeast Uplift is our I was going to use the acronym, but DEIA stands for Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Access work. We had an independent group of folks work on our diversity, equity, and inclusion and access work, documents, and it has been recently passed by the Southeast Uplift Board, which is awesome. So this is official Southeast Uplift policy as of July 2020. I know this is really hard to read, but it will be up on our website very soon. I have to figure out some things to get it up there, but yeah, if you want to read these documents on your own time, feel free to reach out to me and I will send it to you. But this is a whole host of work that just solidifies and cements our commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion at our organization. We recognize that historically Southeast Uplift has not been the most equitable place, and we're really working to change that and to create space for everyone and to invest in everybody as well. So we passed 3 documents. One of them is our equity lens. And our equity lens is basically if we have a big decision to make, whether program-wise or at the Southeast Uplift Board or etc., we really want to look at everything through an equity lens, and who does this affect and how will this affect people in the future, etc. So that's what an equity lens is. Excuse me. Our DEIA statement is just a statement. It's not just, but it's a great statement of values and like what we do, and acknowledging our historical inequities and you know, like the gaps in our services historically and the things that we're committed to. And we also have a Southeast Uplift Code of Ethics. We want to make sure that we're operating ethically, that everybody in our programming, everybody involved with us is operating ethically. So those are 3 documents that were recently passed, and we cannot wait to implement them into our programming, into our everyday efforts. So again, if you want to read them, they will be up on our website soon, but if you don't want to wait around, reach out to me and I'm happy to send them to you.
Christina, I saw them on the website.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Andy from the Foster Powell Neighborhood Association shared it with the Equity and Social Justice Committee we have.
Oh, okay. They might be in our minutes from our July meeting. I believe they were part of the supporting documents. But what I'm going to try to do is have them front and center. So under the Who We Are tab, I want there to be like a really, like an obvious place where these documents are going to live. So they might be on the website somewhere. I'm sure I probably did it in my sleep or something, because that's all I do is work on the website. So if it is, so thank you so much for letting me know that. Any other questions, you guys? Okay, great. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and take like a 10-minute break while I assign everybody to their breakout rooms for the quiz bowl. If you don't know what the quiz bowl is, it's basically trivia. I'm gonna send everybody a link to a Google form. I'm gonna assign you to teams. You're gonna fill it out. Then we're gonna come back together. After that, we're gonna go through the questions. Let me just do a time check. Perfect, we'll take like a 9-minute break. We're gonna go through the questions, go through some more information from that, and then the winner is going to get a $50 Fred Meyer gift card, which I know everybody loves. So go off. I will see you back here at 7:30 p.m.
Christina,
Yes?
can I ask you a question? Are you guys going to talk about open meetings?
No, that is not on our agenda, but I think there are a few questions that touch on that topic on the quiz bowl.
Oh, okay.
Agreed.
All right, so go drink your water, use the bathroom, do what you got to do.
Christina,
Yeah,
I do think there's a quiz bowl question about open meetings,
okay.
or there was a scenario, but that'll probably also be covered in the leadership training too, right?
Okay, sounds good. I'm just going to start assigning people to their group. I hope that went well. I cannot wait to see who gets the gift card. Okay, we're gonna go through the questions, and I'm sorry if you hear my dog barking in the background. She's very upset because it's late and she's supposed to be in bed. So let's go through these questions. Give me 1 second. I'm just trying to share my screen.
So one question with 2 options would only let us choose one.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Technology.
We had
wouldn't
that same
be
problem.
running.
Technology deceives me. Slideshow. From current slide. Okay. Here we go. All right. First question, who can participate as a member of a neighborhood association? I feel like this was a pretty easy one. It's everybody. Everybody in your neighborhood with an address or that lists an address can participate in your neighborhood association. Elections are a little bit different. I believe some bylaws state that you have to be a member for a certain amount of time. You have to have attended a certain amount of meetings to be eligible to vote. But in terms of coming to meetings, everybody is allowed to join your meeting. Any comments from anyone? Did people get that one correct or?
Thumbs up.
Okay.
And
Awesome.
also, like we mentioned, if you want to expand that, you can.
Yeah.
But that's the typical bylaws.
Yeah. So this is the interactive portion, so you don't have to worry about like being on mute the whole time. If we say something and you have more information to add on, please feel free to jump in and help us out. Okay, next question. How much notification must your neighborhood association provide to the public prior to an upcoming meeting? So the answer is 7 days. So this is one of the questions that Denise asked about open meeting rules. This is a question about being in compliance with open meeting rules. It's all about transparency and making sure that everybody has the same information at the same time to make sure that everybody can participate in their neighborhood associations. So you have to give at least 7 days notice prior to an upcoming meeting. Southeast Uplift also follows this rule in terms of our Southeast Uplift board meetings, and I believe executive committee as well.
And your bylaws will give more details on like emergency meetings or committee meetings, but essentially any meeting that's going to have quorum, so enough board members for voting, you need to give that 7 days notice.
Okay, next question. Notice must state the date, time, place, and blank. And the correct answer was a brief description of topics on the agenda. Yeah, notice must state the date, time, place, and a brief description of topics in the agenda to give people enough time to decide if they're going to join your meeting, if they want to comment on whatever it is you're talking about, and if they want to participate in the voting of it. Anything else? Does that sound good to folks? Go ahead, Heather.
I was just curious about in addition though, aren't we supposed to include anything that the board is being asked to vote on in the agenda as well? Or is that just more best practice?
That's a best practice, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice and kind of on Heather's point there. You don't, if an issue comes up during a meeting, say, maybe you had on the agenda to talk about, I'll give an example, a real life example, but like Mount Tabor was thinking of rezoning part of its park. And so it's one thing if you say, we're going to talk about Mount Tabor Park, but if while you're talking about Mount Tabor Park and you say, oh, we're going to vote to approve rezoning a portion of the park, and yeah, let's take that vote. If you realize like that's probably something a lot of people would care about. And if we had that on the agenda, more people probably would have come and shared their perspective, then you might just want to not vote on that and table it for next time. So there's some discretion because if you just provided a brief description, but then it turns out, oh, wow, we're making this really big decision, it's probably not a great idea if you can help it to make that decision without giving people proper notice.
And I messed this one up for our group. Cheryl was right. What is the difference between an approved meeting agenda and a description of the topics on the agenda? Do you have to have an approved meeting agenda?
No.
Okay.
No, it's not
So,
required.
right. Yeah. That's the main difference, is that you don't have to vote on approving your agenda, whereas you should have a brief description of everything that you're going to be talking about. Does that make sense?
And it's okay. It's a learning process.
Yeah.
And, I mean, if you're a neighborhood association that's super together and if you're approving meeting agendas in advance, that's very impressive, but
That's
can be
excellent.
restrictive as well, actually, because then you're kind of stuck with it.
Awesome. Neighborhood associations can vote at meetings as long as the chair and at least 2 board members are in attendance. I actually don't know the answer to this one. Oh, it's false. It's false. So Leah, do you know why it's false? I believe it's because that might not be quorum, correct?
Yeah.
Quorum,
Look at
I
your
believe, is like-
bylaws. Look at your
Yeah.
bylaws and see what's quorum for your neighborhood association. It may be it may be 3 board members. I mean, that might be quorum, but in most cases, it's more than that. It may be
Yeah.
required to be 4 or more. So yes, look at your bylaws and see what quorum is, and you'll need that quorum in order to make decisions at your meetings.
Can I ask one more question about the previous question, just in
Yeah.
terms of agendas? Sometimes the notice goes out, and so it's within the 7-day window, but maybe there's a last minute change to the agenda. And you've noticed the community the day before or something like that.
Mhm.
Is just the notice to the community, it's still okay? Things can change a little bit, but generally.
I mean,
Any thoughts
Heather,
on
it's one of those things that nobody's going around monitoring agendas, and
Yeah.
so a best practice again is to consider, is this going to be something super important, and is it so different from what we had already posted that people would be upset or feel excluded if they hadn't had an opportunity to be a part of that decision. It's
Right.
definitely a gray area, and every neighborhood's different, right? It's like what might matter for Richmond might not be a big deal to Reed, or vice versa.
Right.
And so you kind of have to feel out what's appropriate. But I would say if it's a new topic or significantly different, it's not technically okay, but
Right.
I
Yeah.
know, like,
You're
nobody.
not introducing something new, but maybe you're clarifying it or
Yeah,
something.
clarifying
Right.
is definitely easy.
That's definitely okay.
definitely okay.
Yeah.
Introducing new things is not technically okay, but sometimes there's last minute issues that come up, like, oh shoot, we have to make this decision before the city council thing, and so we need to add this. Depending on what it is, yes, you might be asking for forgiveness.
Good to know.
Okay. Yeah, so we talked about quorum. Make sure to check your bylaws to determine what quorum means for your NA. Voting can take place, A, over email as long as there is quorum, on the neighborhood listserv, by another member when you're unable to attend, or by ballot. Or E, none of the above. Oh, my computer is freaking out. Sorry, guys.
Okay.
Having technical difficulties. Oh no. Oh no.
Well, we can answer, Christina, while you're figuring that out.
Yes.
So it's, who wants to say the answer? Come on, interactive. E, none of the above, right? None of the above. So yes, technically you are.
No.
Well, this must be for election then.
I know.
Yes. You know what? This happens every year. It is for election specifically.
Okay, that's different.
Yeah. But usually it's none of the above. If it's for if it's for an agenda item, you have to be present to vote on that item. But if it is for elections, it can only be by ballots. You cannot vote for a new board member by email. You can't ask your friend or your buddy to submit your ballot for you. You have to be present at your elections. And there is no ballot voting for agenda items, if that makes sense.
So if you are talking about like this person reached out to us and they want to come do a presentation at our meeting, can you agree over email that you want someone to come? Is this question specifically asking about voting for elections?
Yes. So if someone is asking to come to your neighborhood meeting, you can communicate over email. You just cannot vote on any items via email. So you can communicate with your board member friends over email, like about things that aren't on the agenda, but if it's about, or even things on the agenda, but if it's a vote, you cannot vote over email.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
In our bylaws, it states a little differently. It says you can't do anything major over email, but you can vote on like the color of the balloons for an event or
well,
something.
you wouldn't be so the way the language works with state law is that boards are not allowed to deliberate towards decision making or make decisions in outside of the meeting. So to get to those two questions, so that makes, I mean, Cheryl, that makes sense. I mean, when you're deciding on the colors of balloons, you're not like voting. You're working on logistics, like, and so same with you, Kimberlia. Am I saying your name right?
It's Kimberly or Kimberly.
That's
Whatever.
right. I'm Leah, and I get my name wrong all the time, Kimberlia. So kind of to your point about populating your agenda, if your board is emailing like, oh, someone asked to be on the agenda and it's a logistical, you're trying to figure out what's going to be discussed, but you wouldn't as a board be allowed to, okay, well, PBOT asked to come and be on our agenda for the Hawthorne Paint and Pave project, and we're going to support that project, so let's have them on there. Like, you wouldn't have that conversation. That's not okay, because you're making a decision about your stance on a project. But you would say, oh, PBOT has asked to come and share information. Yes, let's add them to the agenda. That makes sense.
Okay.
And it is such a gray area. I mean, we have this conversation all the time, and we have a slide in another training that we can also share out that kind of like talks about this gray area, but it certainly is a gray area.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Next question. Meeting minutes are A, the property of a neighborhood association and do not have to be shared with the public. B, shall be put in writing and made available to the public. C, should include the opinions of participations from discussions prior to the meeting. D, serve as a verbatim transcript of the meeting, or E, none of the above. And the correct answer is B, shall be put in writing and made available to the public. So a lot of folks put their meeting minutes on their website. Some people send it out to their Google groups. Yeah, and a whole bunch of other ways, but as long as it's readily available for the public to go back and search and figure out what was spoken about, figure out how you voted on something, it should be readily available to everybody.
And the secretary officer packet goes into more details about what needs to be included for notes.
Which is on our website. Right on the front page, there's a link to new Neighborhood Association board member resources, and those packets are available right now.
Question, is that applicable to all committees or just the board meetings?
Any meeting that has quorum of board members is subject to those kind of public records requirements.
But not committees,
Well,
unless
if
there's a quorum of
Yeah.
board members. Yeah. Okay.
Correct. I mean, again, a best practice, you may want to make it available if you think
Yeah.
people will be interested, but a lot of times neighborhood association will have time on their agenda for board or committee updates. And so that's kind of reflected then in the notes, right?
Yeah. Great.
Next question. What is the amount of direct notice that should be given to applicants in a land use or liquor license review that will be discussed at your meeting? 8 hours, 24 hours, 48 hours, 1 week, or you do not have to notify them, and it is 24 hours. I don't know if liquor licensing still applies, Leah, or maybe I'm thinking of good neighbor agreements, but
Yeah, liquor license is different than the good neighbor agreement. So
okay, yeah.
there's
Yeah, you have to give folks, if they're coming for your support on a land use issue or liquor license review, or I know Richmond is going through the PBOT review process for the parking permits. Yeah, you have to give them 24 hours notice before your meeting. if it's going to be discussed. Any questions on that? Okay. What is the length of time that written ballots must be retained after a vote before they can be discarded? Is it 1 week, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, or E, they don't have to be retained? The correct answer is 60 days. Your liaison will keep your ballots, or this year, a lot of folks did online voting, will keep your polling results for 60 days. I have all of my election notices from the past 2 years. I don't know what to do with them. I cannot part ways with them, so I still have them. And some liaisons might have them for years and years and years. Yeah, any questions on that? Okay, awesome. Next question. What are the 2 Oregon state organizations that all incorporated neighborhood associations have to report to annually? You can choose 2. I'm sorry about the Google form, you guys. But the answers are the Secretary of State and the Department of Justice. You just get those renewed, and we cover the fee for you. So please remember to submit those for reimbursements. You don't have to fork over $75 for those 2. Any questions? I actually have a question. I always wonder this. How do you does it just show up at your doorstep? Like, how do you know when it's time to renew every year?
Does anyone
Do you know, Leah?
I know. Does anyone else want to answer? You get the mail wherever your mail is being sent. The Department of Justice sends the renewal to that address. So if you're a board member and you're not sure where your mail is going, you should double check. It's a lot of neighborhood association mail comes to Southeast Uplift office. Obviously with COVID, it's a little bit harder to get that mail. So if you want to change your mailing address, you can let us know. And I believe the Secretary of State also comes via that way. But you can always check in with your liaison if you're not sure. We have a database of when everyone's renewal is.
Yeah, I've processed so many of these, and I've always wondered, like, where do you guys how do you know when it's time to renew these? But you're just on top of it. Next question. An individual may file a grievance against your neighborhood association if you allegedly violate procedures in B, your bylaws. So this is what we were talking about earlier. So make sure that you are aware of your bylaws. If you are not following your bylaws, please make sure that it's at least in consensus and that no one is, being harmed by you not following your open meeting rules or what is being dictated in your bylaws. So make sure that you have those updated and that they are current to you. Any questions? Okay, awesome. Next question. Where should you archive your neighborhood association sign-in sheets, agendas, minutes, bylaws, and other official correspondence? And the right answer is your neighborhood coalition office. So I believe all of you send me your meeting minutes, bylaws, and everything every month, and I save them somewhere, and they are safe and sound on our SharePoint drive. We used to do it paper, like there's a whole bunch of boxes at Southeast Uplift full of these old minutes and agendas, but now everything is online.
So we would just, like, the attendance, if we had a normal meeting, would be just written out,
Yeah.
And then just scan that and send it to you.
Absolutely.
That's what Jeffrey does. All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Perfect. Next question. Neighborhood associations can take position on ballot measures and referendums. Who knows this answer? True. It is true. Neighborhood associations can take official positions on ballot measures and referendums, but you cannot support candidates. That is the major difference, right? Like, you can take a position on policy, but you cannot endorse a candidate for commissioner or anything like that. Does that make sense?
And to add on to that, Christina, that doesn't mean as a neighborhood association you can't host candidates.
Right.
You just need to make the invitation available to everyone that's running for a position, and just be aware if there is a race happening and you invite the current seated candidate, it could be perceived as favoritism. So just, okay, well, if you want to invite the current seated person, you need to make sure you extend the invitation to all of the other candidates. So it still is good. It's still possible for you to share information out about them and have them come to your meetings. It's just you can't favor one over the other.
Okay. And last question. If you have a question related to your neighborhood association's operations, example, who is an eligible member, the election process, quorum, new committees, and more, where should you go first for the answer? And the answer is, if we haven't said it before, you're going to know it now. You have to look through your bylaws. While we would love to help you guys, most of the time these kinds of answers are found in your bylaws. We have a copy of all your bylaws. I think Leah said this in the chat. So if you don't have them, we have at least some version. It might not be the most current version, but we have some version of all of your bylaws. Yeah, that is it. That is the training. Thank you guys for spending your night with us. Do you have any last minute questions? We're a little bit over, but I have some time if you have questions.
I have one quick question that came up in our group that I may have missed it when regard to voting. Our board seems like we have a pre-meeting at like a half hour before we open up the board meeting to non-board members where we take votes on like the agenda and some other issues. Is that allowed, or do we have to only take votes when it's a public meeting and members of the public are accessible?
I can answer that.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's Buckman, and I actually like the format that Buckman does, because it's not that it's closed to the public. It's the former board meeting, and the public is welcome to attend. But it's most likely you're covering board business, and it may not be of interest to the general public. So that's the reason why the agenda is set up that way. So it's still a public meeting. The agenda is still sent out 7 days in advance. The public is still welcome to attend if they like. But just the way that it's structured is to try to like focus the exciting information for people to come. And yeah, so. But in
the case of Zoom, though, I think we like wait until 7 to allow anyone into the room. We have to, if they jump on, we have to allow them to join.
Yeah, well then in that case, no, you need to allow the public to come in if they are wanting to. Yes, and they should have access to that. So you should report back to Susan.
There's a lot of that.
Thanks for the clarity.
He knows that. So yeah, just a reminder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Paige. Thank you for being our assistant.
And just didn't come home. Like he just didn't come home. I don't know where he is.
Okay.
So yeah, I have the kids. And thank you, everyone. And honestly, please look through. One second. Please look through the academy, the Leadership Academy trainings, because we tried to pick out topics that we feel like we're hearing people are interested in. And we know that this is just a 2-hour training, and so it's not going to cover and go into the weeds all of the questions that you have. So yes, we hope you can participate in those.
Yes, it's happening all month long. It's on our website. If you have any questions, please reach out to us. My email is christina@seuplift.org, and Leah's is leahf@seuplift.org. And you can find all that information on the website as well. And we're here for you.